parents and students. Our topic for today, which is a very common topic as regards the English language, is subject-verb pronoun-antecedent agreement. Something I like to call the mathematics of the English language. Yes, it's more like mathematics because you have to match things, addition, subtraction here and there. So, subject-verb pronoun-antecedent agreement. Most of you have gone through this in JHS and secondary school. So this is just going to be more of a reminder or revision of the things we have learned before. So, yeah, that's the topic. Subject-verb pronoun-antecedent agreement. You know what subject and verb are. You know what a pronoun is. Antecedent is what the pronoun refers to. So if we say, for example, Cosmas is happy, he is happy. The he refers to Cosmas. So Cosmas is the antecedent for the pronoun he. So it's not any interesting word that will confuse you. It's a very simple one. Sometimes it's the names and the technicalities that make people wonder, what is this about? So antecedent simply means that something the pronoun refers to, period. We don't need so much technicalities to be able to understand subject-verb pronoun-antecedent agreement in the English language. So let's get right into it. I've put it in a number of rules. Other people may have different numbers for those rules, or may not number them at all, but the principles remain the same. So let's roll. The first rule that I have couched this in is that subjects and verbs must agree in number. That's it. They must agree in number. Number means either it is singular, one, or plural, more than one. 16, 7, a billion, 1.5, maybe. So more than one plural, one singular. So we take the sentences to see, for example, the child speaks Russian fluently. In English, interestingly, if the verb is singular, particularly in the present tense, that's where subject-verb agreement usually takes place. It's the present tense. The verb, interestingly, in the singular carries S. If it is not singular, it doesn't carry an S. Unlike nouns, the regular nouns carry S if they are plural. If they are singular, they don't carry S. But for the verb, it's the direct opposite. Singular verbs carry S, plural ones do not. So the child speaks Russian fluently. So the child is the subject about what the statement is about, and the verb is speaks. So it agrees with the number of the child, singular. On the other hand, you see the children speak Russian fluently. Of course, child is singular, but children, plural. So the verb goes speak, and they agree. So there's nothing wrong. That coordination or agreement is there. Now, Malcolm is my son's name. Of course, Malcolm, singular, is singular. And then the men are not here. The men, plural. So the verb is are, not is, singular. So it's a basic, all of us know. And it comes readily to even children when they begin to pick the language. Of course. So the first rule, subjects and verbs must agree in number. And the number has to do with either a singular or plural. Singular, one, plural, more than one. Then rule number 2, of course, there are technical terms for this, as in post-modification or pre-modification. I am not going to use any of those technical terms. You don't need them to know the rule of grammar, the basic rule of subject-verb agreement. So the second rule is that the words that come between the subject and the verb do not affect agreement. When you see words that come between the subject and the verb, they do not affect agreement. It's like the clothes you wear. Whether you wear a jacket or a swimsuit or kaba and slate, it doesn't change who you are. You're the same person. just that your clothes are different. By the same fashion, the words that come between the subject and the verb do not affect agreement. So if the subject is plural, regardless of the word that comes between them, between it and the verb, the verb will be plural. So the box on top of the bus is mine. What comes between this is what? On top of the bus. It comes between the box which is singular, and the verb which is. So if you take away on top of the box, the sentence will read, the box is mine. So one of the ways to see it is just to cover or remove from your mind what comes between the subject and the verb, and it becomes easy. So this is a very simple sentence. The box is mine, but of course, where is the box? On top of the bus, coming between the subject and the verb. Then the boxes on the subject, the boxes on the boxes on top of the bus are mine. The boxes on top of the bus are mine. So boxes on top of the bus coming between the boxes and the verb are. So the sentence simply is, the boxes are mine. On top of the bus is simply coming between the subject and the verb. The man the police officers arrested is my neighbor. What comes between the subject? First, what is the subject? The man. What is its number? Singular. But the police officers arrested is coming between the subject and the man. This statement is simply identifying what type of man. What type of man. It's actually called post-modifiers, but forget about those technical terms. So, the police officers arrested coming between the man and the verb is. So the man is my neighbor is the sentence simple. Now the past tense of go, not swim, is went. So the past tense of go is a subject. Take note that it is more than a single word. We'll come to that as we progress. The past tense of go, one statement, so singular. Not swim, I don't mean swim, comes after that, and then the verb is. So it will be the past tense of go, is went, but not swim is just coming between the subject and the verb. So take note, do not worry about words or statements that come between the subject and the verb. Focus on what the subject is so you could match the verb with it in terms of number. So the third rule is prepositional phrases between the subject and verb usually do not affect the agreement. We talk about some words coming between the subject and then the verb. Some of those words could be prepositional phrases. It is easy to understand them because they begin with prepositions. We know what they are. They show place and position, all those type of things. Of course, position, preposition. So in, on, under, over, those type of words. So these are some of the words that come between the subject and the verb. And we call them prepositional phrases because they begin with a preposition. So the colors of the rainbow are a sight to behold. Of the rainbow come between the subject and the verb. Now, because it is of the rainbow and begins with of, it is called a prepositional phrase. Forget about that. Identify the subject, colors, and then you see that the verb should agree with colors. So colors, plural, verb, are, plural. Makes it very simple, isn't it? One of the great workers of this company is an Indian. One of the great workers of this company is an Indian. Now take note. The prepositional phrase of the great workers of this company. Okay. Now take note that if we have the expression one of the, it is usually followed by a plural noun, because you cannot have one of one thing. of course, except in the case of pagination on Microsoft Word where we have one of one page. But ideally, we have one of several things. So you can't say one of the great worker. No, it has to be one of the great workers. Even that, it does not affect the number of the subject. So one of the great workers of this company is an Indian. If you take away the prepositional phrase, you have one is an Indian. One is an Indian. So one of the great workers of this company is an Indian. You don't mind the prepositional phrase. You focus on your subject, its number, and you make sure the verb agrees with it also, of course, in number. And then the children in the library are to see the manager before they leave for home. There should be a Y here, before they leave. The children in the library are to see the manager before they leave for home. So the children, what is the prepositional phrase? In the library. So the children, subject, prepositional phrase, in the library. The verb is, of course, are. You can take away in the library and the sentence reads, the children are to see the manager before they, should be a Y, leave for home. And then the last one, the child beside the armed man looks very innocent. The child beside the armed man looks very innocent. So beside the armed man, prepositional phrase, the child, subject, of course, looks. So the child looks very innocent. You forget about beside the armed man. So prepositional phrases also come between subjects and verbs. You forget about them. You just wipe it out with your mind's eye, and it's easy to tell what a subject is and what a verb is, and you can match the two to see whether they agree. If they don't, you're correct. If they do, the sentence is correct. The rule number 4. When sentences start with there or here, the subject will always be placed after the verb, so care needs to be taken to identify it correctly. When sentences start with there or here, the subject will always be placed after the verb, so care needs to be taken to identify it, the subject correctly, because they come after the verb. So there is a problem with a balance sheet. What is the subject? Oh yes, positionally there seems to be the subject over here, but actually the subject, the thing about which the sentence goes, is a problem. And because a problem is singular, the verb is also singular. So there is a problem with a balance sheet. If we have problems, for example, there are problems with a balance sheet. So the verb agrees with the number of this. There is a problem, there are problems. Then we have, here are the papers you requested. Here are the papers you requested. The papers is actually the real subject, and the number is plural, so the verb over here is are, not is. If this was singular, it would be here is the paper you requested. Here are the papers you requested. Here is the paper you requested. Then the next one, there always comes a winner at the end of all competitions. There always comes a winner at the end of all competitions. So, what is the subject here, as we've seen, is going to be a winner. A winner. And what is the number of a winner? Singular. Of course, shown clearly in the indefinite article, which is placed before singular nouns. So, there always comes a winner at the end of all competition. Suppose this were plural, winners, then automatically the verb over here wouldn't be comes, it will become. The verb will be come, not comes. So there always come winners at the end of all competitions, it would read. So either way, you make sure that the verb agrees with the subject that comes after it in the areas where we use there or here. Then the next one, here is the story you wanted to listen to. Here is the story you wanted to listen to. The subject we can identify as what? Yeah, you are right if you say the subject is the story. And the number of the subject is singular. And so it carries the verb is. Now suppose the subjects were stories. The verb will be what? Are. You are right if you say are. Anything else would be wrong. So here are the stories you wanted to listen to. So take note. The rule number 4 says, when sentences start with there or here, the subject would always be placed after the verb, so can is to be taken to identify it, the subject, correctly. And once the subject is correctly identified, you'll be able to know where the subject is, its number, and make sure the verb you use agrees with it. That's 4. Yeah, let's move on. We're going to take just up to 10 rules in this section, and then we can continue later. Rule number 5. Subjects do not always come before verbs, especially in questions. Make sure you accurately identify the subject before deciding on the proper verb form to use. Just like in the case of when you use there or here, in the case of questions, sometimes the subject does not necessarily come first. Of course, in some question, the subject still comes first. So like question like, Cosmos is here. Yes, more of a statement type of question, but it's acceptable. Now, let's take the one that the subject doesn't come necessarily before the verb, as we saw in the case of here and there, but in the case of questions in rule number 5. What are the pieces of this puzzle? What are the pieces of this puzzle? The subject is the pieces. What is it number? Plural, more than one. And what is the verb? Are. If we reverse it and the subject were the piece, this verb will be is. So where are the pieces of this puzzle? Or where is the piece of this puzzle? Both sentences are correct because their subjects agree with their verbs. The next example, what are their names? What are their names? Their names, if you see that to be the subject, beautiful. And because they are plural, or I should say because it is plural, the verb is are. Where this, what is his name? What is your name? A common sentence. What is your name? What are their names? So, where are the lions in the park? Where are the lions in the park? Lions, subject. The verb agrees with the subject, are. So where are the lions in the park? Are they grazing? Can you imagine a lion grazing? Or maybe in dreams, they don't graze. They eat meat. They are carnivores. So where are the lions in the park? Where is the lion in the park. And then who is to blame for these errors? If there are many, who is to blame for these errors? Who is to blame for these errors? Over here, you can see that the subject actually remains who, more of a pronoun here. So, who is to blame for these errors? The subject is not in anywhere here. So sometimes, if you say who are to blame for these errors, you just assume that the who over here refers to not just one person, but many. So we can deduce that who is to blame definitely refers to a single person. So who can take is, it can take are. But if it takes is or a singular verb, it means its antecedent or referent point would be singular. If it is are here, it would be plural. So we have learned that subjects in questions usually come after the verb, or come after the verb, or sometimes, of course, you may not have a subject at all, but the question, the who, as we see in this case, can become the subject. And if it carries a singular verb, it means that what it refers to is singular. If it carries a plural verb, its reference or antecedent is plural. So that's rule number 5. And then we take rule number 6. If two subjects are joined by and, they typically require a plural verb. That's a common rule all of us know. If two subjects are joined by and, they typically require a plural verb. Take note of the word typically. So what it means is that usually if you see two subjects joined by and, the verb is plural. But that is not the case at all times. We'll look at that. So let's see some examples. The cow and the pig are both four-legged. So the first subject, cow, joined by and, the other subject, the pig. So two different subjects, the verb is are, straight away. And then we take the next one. Malcolm and Ree were invited to the party. Malcolm, one subject, joined by and, joining Ree by and then the verb is were. So Malcolm and Ree were invited to the party. So two separate subjects. Malcolm, one subject, Ree, the other subject, joined by and so the verb were, typically. And then we see the man and his wife are known to be very generous. The man and his wife are known to be very generous. The man, one subject, his wife, another subject. Of course, we can see and over here, are known to be very generous. So two separate subjects, the verb are, correct. The mobile phone and the laptop are both new forms of technology. The mobile phone, one subject, the laptop, another subject, joined by and, are both new forms of technology. So, typically, remember? Now, this is the exception for the typically we talked about in the previous rule, rule number 6. The rule number 7 is the verb is singular if the two subjects separated by and refer to the same person or thing. The verb is singular if the two subjects separated by and refer to the same person or thing. So you may see this and that, but the verb is singular. You may wonder, but we're learning that if the thing refers to the same person or thing, the verb will be singular, being an exception to the previous rule. So red beans and rice is my mom's favorite dish. Red beans and rice. Wow, red beans, even plural. But that's food. And rice, served as one food. So you don't say red beans and rice are. because it's looked upon as one thing, even though we have and joining, as you could see physically, two different subjects. So rice and beans is delicious. You don't say rice and beans are delicious. You can even say rice and beans and yam and stew and wache are, of course, and, but it is still is, because it's looked upon as one unit, referring to the same specific thing, food. So kaba and slit is a very popular word among Ghanaian ladies. Kaba and slit is a very popular word among Ghanaian ladies. Kaba, I think. What is kaba? Yeah, they are two different things, aren't they? Kaba, I think, is the top and slit is the down, maybe. Pardon me if I don't remember that very well. But it's looked upon as just one thing. Yeah, referring to an attire that a person wears. Wache, shito, fried plantain, and gari is my number one dish every morning. Now take note. Wache, shito, fried plantain, and gari. You can count 1, 2, 3, and 4. But the verb is because it refers to food, meal. Malcolm's manager and father was here yesterday. Malcolm's manager and father was here yesterday. Wow, what could that be? Then take note. This refers to one and the same person. So Malcolm's father could also serve as his manager. Remember, the verb is singular if the two subjects separated by and refer to the same person or thing. So Malcolm's manager and father was here. So if you hear somebody say that my wife and secretary is very hardworking, don't be surprised. Maybe the person's wife is the same as his secretary. So the person says my wife and secretary are hardworking. They are two separate persons. Is hardworking just one person? I hope this has gone down well. Now, rule number 8. If one of the words each, every, or no comes before the subject, the verb is singular. If you say each, every, or no coming before the subject, the verb is singular. So, no smoking or drinking is allowed. Of course, if you see all here, no smoking or no drinking is allowed. So no smoking is allowed. No coming before the subject, smoking or drinking. So the verb is singular. Every man and woman is required to check in. Every man and woman is required to check in. Over here you see every coming before man and woman. You can see man and woman, already plural. So you wonder, is it but this rule overrules the previous rules of if you see and joining two items. The rules overrule other rules. Power. So that's very powerful. Every man and woman. Wow, two. Even join with and, but the verb is singular because when you see this used before a subject, the verb singular. Every is one of them. No soldier was allowed to cross the danger zone. Of course, soldier already singular. Coming before it is no, the verb is singular, was. Every student finds this question difficult to answer. Every student finds this question difficult to answer. So every coming before student, already singular, we could see the verb is singular. If one of the words each, every, or no comes before the subject, the verb is singular. Then we can move on. And the rule number 9. If the subjects are both singular and are connected by the words or, nor, neither, nor, either, or, and not only, but also, with, as well as, together with, no less than, the verb is singular. Take note. This one you may need to pause the video if you're watching it and take some notes out of this one. So these are some of the words. If the subject are both singular and are connected by the words or, no, neither, no, either, or, not only but also, with, as well as, together with, no less than, the verb is singular. Remember, singular subjects connected with these connectives. So Joshua, no less than Shane, is a very active boy. Joshua, singular subject. No less than is the connector. Let's call it that way. Shane, another singular. The verb is singular. So Joshua, no less than Shane, is a very active boy. We may be referring to both of them actually, because that's what the meaning is. But it's as if we're talking about Joshua more than Shane. So Joshua, no less than Shane, is a very active boy because of the connector. As I said, let's call it that way. They call them pseudo-conjunctions, but that's just a technical term, pseudo-conjunction. If you think about those terms, you get confused, so let's call them connector. So, Joshua, no less than Shane, is a very active boy. Then we come to Jessica, or Christian, is to blame for the accident. Jessica or Christian, two singular subject. The verb is because joined by or. Jessica or Christian is to blame for the accident. Then we come to the third example. Damien as well as Malcolm is the name of my beloved son. Damien as well as Malcolm is the name of my beloved son. So Damien, one subject, joined by this connector as well as another subject, both singular. The verb is singular. Naki together with Sharif likes to share what they have with others. Naki together with Sharif likes to share what they have with others. So you can see Naki, singular. The connector is together with Sharif. Then we have the verb likes. Even though the meaning is that both of them do that, when it comes to the grammar of subject-verb agreement, it's as if only one of them do that. Only one of them does that, I should say. So Naki together with Sharif likes. So Naki, singular, Sharif, singular, joined by the connector together with the verb is singular. Now, rule number 10. It says, the only time when the object of the preposition factors into the decision of plural or singular verb forms is when noun and pronoun subjects like some, half, none, more, or all are followed by a prepositional phrase. In these sentences, the object of the preposition determines the form of the verb. Let me take it again, very long, but we'll explain it. The only time when the object of the preposition factors into the decision of plural or singular verb forms is when noun and pronoun subjects like some, half, none, more, or all are followed by a prepositional phrase. In these sentences, the object of the preposition determines the form of the verb. So sometimes you see words like some. Is it some of a single thing or some of many things? So, okay, some. Some can be of bread. It can be of children, isn't it? Then you can talk about half. Half. Take note, this is not half. The L is silent, it's pronounced half. Half can be half of a loaf of bread, or half of children at school, or half of an orange, so whatever. So we will see that. None. Is it none of the milk or none of the children? And we have more of the milk, or more of gari, or more of the pencils, or all of the pencils, or all of the wachi. So what the all or what these words refer to becomes what you pay attention to. If it is singular, the verb is singular. If it is plural, the verb is plural. Let's take some examples. All of the chicken is gone. All of the chicken is gone. So over here you could say chicken singular, the verb is. But all of the chickens are gone. Take note that all of the chickens is which is the object of the preposition. I don't want to go that way though, a little confusing. Let's go the simplest way. So let's look at all. But all of what, you may ask? Chickens. Oh, and of course, plural, are gone. Some of the milk, oh, there's an error here. It should be K, milk, M-I-L-K. Some of the milk was spilled. Of course, milk, some of what milk. Of course, you don't, it's non-count, you don't count milk. You don't say milk 1, milk 2, except tins of milk. So you're focusing on the tin, not the milk. So, some of the milk was spilled. Some of the boxes are stolen. So you can take note that boxes, some, okay, more than one. It could be 6 boxes, and then some of them could be 2, so still plural. Half of the pupils of class 5 have passed the test. Half of the pupils, they could be 20, they could be 18. Half could be of 18, 9, still plural. So, half. Half of the bread was given to Daisy. Bread 1, its half, was given to Daisy. And then, none of the children were present. None of the children were present. None of the milk is left. Okay. So this is a rule number 10. We have so far discussed rules numbers 1 to 10 of the subject-verb agreement. And so that ends this section. The next section will continue from rules number 11 to the end. And by the end of it, I'll be able to tell some of the basic rules that govern subject-verb, pronoun-antecedent agreement in the English language. Now we can take a breather and continue. Thank you.